Are my thoughts keeping me fat? The answer is yes. Yes, yes, and a big fat, hairy yes. I'm going to scream from the rooftops, yes. In fact, in my opinion, my thoughts are the only thing that is keeping me fat. And in this video, I'm going to tell you why that is true. And I'm going to share with you some of the real life situations that I have that prove that what I'm saying is true. And then I'm going to tell you what I'm doing to work on getting my thoughts going for me instead of against me. Hi, I'm Karoline Angeles. I am not a doctor. I am not a nutritionist or a therapist or even a life coach. I'm just a girl who has been overweight her whole life, and you know what? I'm sick of it. This channel is all about unraveling the complexities of why I'm overweight in the first place and why I keep myself there. I'm doing this so that I can heal and move on to a happier, healthier, and slimmer me. And since you're watching this video, I'm guessing that you are likely in the same or maybe a similar boat. So, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Okay, I just told you a minute ago that I absolutely, positively, without any doubt in my mind, that yes, my thoughts are the number one reason for me being overweight and why I continue to stay that way, despite the myriad of health problems that have popped up and continue to pop up because of it. You may be thinking, how can my thoughts be the number one cause of my weight problem? What about diet? What about exercise? I mean, those are the important things, right? I mean, if I sit on the couch for hours on end, stuffing my mouth with bags of chips or like a pint of ice cream, that's a real problem, right? I mean, duh. Yes, of course. How I eat and my lack of moving my body are definitely contributors to my weight problem, but they are only the symptom of the real problem. And that real problem is what I think about myself, like how I actually define myself. If I think of myself as a fat slob, then guess what my reality is? I'm a fat slob. Period. End of statement. Our brains always work to set up conditions that fall in line with what we believe. You know, you ever heard of the saying, as a man thinketh, so is he? Well, it's true. Our thoughts determine our outcomes. The whole trajectory of our lives is being determined, but by what is right up here. Could I really be saying that the reason that I am so overweight and why I continue to be this way is because I believe that I'm fat? Well, yes. Absolutely, yes. That and a whole lot of other beliefs that go hand in hand with that thought, like the belief that exercising is hard, or my belief that, I don't know, chocolate is the most delicious, most comforting, most reliable form of emotional release on the planet. What about my belief that being thin would put me in danger? Yeah, I said that. Seriously, it's a thing. It has taken me a lot of soul searching to understand that about myself, but it's true. My belief that I am safer being fat is deeply rooted in my subconscious, and that belief goes back years, like all the way to childhood experiences, maybe all the way to infancy. It's kind of hard to argue with the belief that you've had since before you can even remember. Of course, there are other beliefs that I have about my weight, about exercising, about food, and all of those beliefs guide my feelings, which in turn guide my actions. The foundation holding up all of this, it's my thoughts. And until those thoughts are addressed and changed, I will continue to stay big. It's just that simple. Think about it. Have you ever lost weight only to turn right around and put it right back on shortly thereafter? Maybe you even put on more than what you had in the beginning. I have several times. Why did they happen? I mean, losing weight was amazing, right? It felt incredible to fit into smaller clothes. It felt fantastic to move my body easier and to be able to do more and to have more fun. because I could do more and it was awesome to be noticed a little bit more and to feel beautiful. So why, if I had all of that positive benefits, why, when I worked so hard to lose weight in the first place, would I give all that up and return to my old habits and put the weight back on and more? I know how miserable I would feel. I knew that I would be disappointed in myself. Actually, no, I knew that I would be downright angry with myself and beat myself up for it. I knew that I would feel gross and I would be struggling, moving, and fitting into things. It just doesn't make any sense why I would do that to myself, like at all. Oh, and not to mention that I really know that losing weight is relatively simple. When I eat well and I get a decent amount of exercise, not even a ton of exercise, I lose weight easy. So what the heck? Why can't I seem to lose the weight and keep it off? I mean, after all, it's what I really want, isn't it? I mean, of course it's what I want because I spend hours thinking about my weight and trying to get it off me. I have worked my butt off to be smaller. So why do I, time and time again, sabotage my own efforts? Well, I'm just going to say it. And it's hard to admit, even to myself. But the truth of the matter is that losing weight is not really what I want. It's not. Because if I really, really deep down at the subconscious level, really want it, it will happen. Because remember, our brains always work to set up conditions that fall in line with what we believe. If I truly, truly believe that I want to lose weight, it will happen. How is it possible that I don't really want to be thin when I know all of the benefits of being thin? Well, actually, I guess that's more in theory and based on what I've heard because I've never really been thin. So I don't know for sure, but I do know that being smaller feels a heck of a lot better. So being thin must be amazing, right? I guess that the answer lies in what I mentioned earlier. That being fat serves me, it keeps me safe. Maybe really hard for you to understand. Or maybe you completely understand because you know exactly what I'm talking about. I have real reasons for being fat, like real reasons. And I want to tell you all about that, but that is a topic all on its own, so I'm going to save it for another video. Suffice it to say right now that being fat equals safety to me, and there is no way, no stinking way, that my brain is going to let me compromise my safety. The driving force behind all the work my brain does is to keep me alive and to keep me safe, so it will do anything, everything to maintain that safety. So if I want to ever lose weight and keep it off, my job, what I've been working on for a while now, is to detach my belief that being overweight equals safety. I have to address the trauma, the scary situations that have led me to that belief. I have to deal with the emotions and the fears that have been locked away inside of me so I can free up my mind and allow for a new way of thinking. And a new way of thinking, that's what it's all about. See, like I've been saying, our thoughts determine everything, all of our actions in life, which ultimately determine the outcomes of our lives, which means that the condition of my life right now, my physical condition, which is not great at all right now, me being a single mom, the incredibly stressful situation that I'm experiencing currently, like all of it, I thought my way here. Now, of course, there are external situations that come into our lives and act upon us all the time that we have no control over. Things like, I don't know, accidents or the loss of a loved one or something like that. But how we react to those things, how we think about those situations and what we consequently do about them, that is all up to us. Like for me personally, I've had some kind of a train wreck of a year this last year due to being hospitalized. I am still living with the effects of what happened. which is another story for another time. I just don't want to go off on that topic now. I could not control what put me in the hospital or the damage to my brain that still hasn't healed. But there is a heck of a lot that I do have control over this year. And to be honest, up until recently, I haven't done so hot with that control. I've been letting my thoughts run away with me, which has set me up for a lot of the mess that I'm experiencing right now. Again, another story for another day. What I really want to stay focused on today is helping you see the incredible power that we all have over our lives and what's happening in them. And that power begins with our thoughts. When I think about this, it helps me to imagine like what's going on inside of my brain. I like to think of my brain as like a big file cabinet. And in that file cabinet, there's like tons and tons of files. Like each file has a label on it containing the prevailing thought that I have on any given subject. So, for example, one file in my file cabinet is labeled like dogs are the best, and another is labeled chocolate makes me happy. And each file is filled, like if you open the file, it's all filled with pieces of evidence that support that thought. So the files of dogs are the best and chocolate makes me happy, they're like super thick, like full of all kinds of evidence that's in there supporting my beliefs that, dogs are the best and chocolate makes me happy. I have a lot of experience with both of these things, that dogs and chocolate make me happy, right? And every time that I have a new experience, I just add more evidence. I take that experience and I add more evidence to the files supporting my belief. Now, because these files already exist, and especially because I have lots and lots of experiences stacked in them supporting my thoughts, my brain has a super easy job whenever it comes across dogs or chocolate. For these two topics, it's literally a no-brainer, like for my brain, right? When my brain sees a dog or it sees chocolate, it gives me the thumbs up, and it's completely on autopilot with those two topics. So, even when I see a dog that might not be very affectionate, I push past that and treat it like it's my best friend in the whole world. Even when I have a stomach full and I couldn't possibly fit anything more in, if I see chocolate and if it's offered to me, it's on. My brain does not like to do extra work if it doesn't have to. When it already has programmed a thought about a topic, it only sees through that lens of that thought, and it prompts me to act accordingly. So if something happens that doesn't support my thought, my brain cannot be bothered with it, and it just ignores it, excuses it, or it just dismisses it like completely. For example, let's say if my dog pees on the carpet, you know what? It doesn't bother me much. Like, it's a little upsetting, but it doesn't bother me much because, you know what? Dogs are the best, right? And I'm willing to deal with that mess. If I didn't like dogs and the dog pees on the carpet, that would set me off. It would make me crazy. So let's think of another example. Let's say like I get a hold of some bad chocolate. Like, is that even a thing? Okay. But let's say I do, and I get sick. Like I get sick to my stomach. You know what I do? I suffer through the pain. And then I proceed to grab some more chocolate the next chance I get because, again, chocolate makes me happy. It's just that simple. My brain always finds more evidence to support my thought, and it will flip the situation in my mind around to make it fit my truth if necessary, like with the chocolate, right? I had a roommate in college that got on my nerves. Oh, let's call her Sally. Sally. Okay. So Sally was bossy. She told everyone else what they should do, what they should think, and how things should be done in the house. And she knew everything, right? Which, it's possible because clearly I was the one who knew everything back then, right? I was in college. On the other hand, my other roommate, she adored her. Like, she loved this girl. So let's call the other roommate Tess. Tess was the sweetest. She was the best. But she adored Sally. And I couldn't understand that. I couldn't understand how Tess could possibly be best friends with Sally. I mean, the stinky roommate. So what could Tess possibly see in her? You see where I'm going with this, right? Like, as long as my thought was, I can't stand Sally. She drives me crazy. I found daily, sometimes hourly, evidence to stuff into that file supporting my claim. On the other hand, however, clearly Tess had the ability to look beyond and maybe not even recognize that Sally was super bossy. And I know this for a fact because whenever Tess talked about Sally, she sang her praises, right? Like she was the best person ever. And I was mystified, but I decided back then that since I was stuck living there, I was going to figure out why Tess loved Sally so much. By the time I moved out of that home, I had grown to appreciate many, many great qualities about Sally. I can't say that we ever became best friends, but my feelings about her had definitely changed because my thoughts about her changed. It took work, but it was worth it because, things were better in the house, right? You know what I'm talking about, don't you? We did, after all, recently go through a presidential election. And I'm not one to talk about politics, but this is really, truly the best example of how our brains work to support our thoughts because of how strongly we tend to feel about issues or candidates. Like, have you ever wondered how it is possible, at all possible, that the other side can possibly think the way that they do when you have so much evidence showing they are completely wrong? I mean, what else can explain why, when we come across a news story or a video clip that shows our candidate in a negative light, that we are so quick to dismiss it as no big deal, or we point fingers to the other team for telling complete lies, right? We don't even make the effort to validate the truth most of the time because we already know. We already know that this information coming in does not support our thinking about that candidate. So it is wrong. Am I right? Okay. Occasionally we get a hold of a piece of new information and we have an aha moment, right? Something happens and it kind of jars us into thinking in a new way. So these instances can change our minds immediately, and we can easily proceed with finding new evidence to support this new thought, right? Just last week, my mom, who, by the way, doesn't have much of a filter, commented to a lady at church who is about her same age about how lucky she is that she's so thin and that she never had to deal with being fat because being fat is hard, right? So this lady has been a member of our congregation for the past, 4 years or so. And so the only thing that we ever knew about her is her as being thin. Over all of those years, my mom has been kind of jealous, kind of resenting her natural slim figure, right? And thinking how hard she has it herself. So come to find out, after my mom made this comment, that this sweet lady had not always been small. In fact, she had lost 140 pounds like just prior to moving into our neighborhood through weight loss surgery. So what? I mean, we had no idea. We had always known her as small, but this new information changed everything. Now, with this new information, my mom sees her in a different light. Instead of someone who has had it so easy, she sees her as someone who has overcome a great deal of difficulty and that's someone that she can relate to. Instead of my mom thinking that she had nothing in common with her, she now is a sister in the struggle. And that changed my mom's attitude. And that happened within just a couple of minutes during one single conversation. Unfortunately, however, this doesn't happen very often. Most of the time, we identify a need to change a thought, like I did with my past roommate, right? And then we have to put forward effort to make a belief switch. So if the thought is not very deeply rooted, it might be changed with not so much effort. For example, I had just met my roommate, Sally, so I didn't have a lot of history or a lot of evidence in my file, right? Remember the file? I didn't have a lot of evidence in my file and the history to support that thought that she was awful. It was the first impression. So it actually took a little bit of effort to change that, but it wasn't very hard. But there are thoughts that are a lot more difficult to change, however. These are the thoughts the ones that we have big, old, chunky files built up, like the dogs or like chocolate. I had these huge, big, fat, chunky files on those, right? So those are going to take more work. Those are going to take some doing to rip the label off of that file and put a new label on it. So no matter what kind of thought that is keeping us stuck, no matter how ingrained it is in our melons, if it isn't serving us, if it's actually stopping us from being or living our best life, or even worse, if that thought is damaging and destructive to us, it's going to go. We have to let it go. We have to turn it around. We have to find a new thought that takes us to the path of our true potential and essence of who we really are. And you know what? We have the power to do that. We have a choice. The most amazing thing about being human is that we have the right to choose how we think and how we feel about everything. I know that sometimes it doesn't feel true. It feels like we're on autopilot. Sometimes we feel trapped in life, like there is no way out, that life sucks, and that's just the way it is. And believe me, I have been there. In fact, very recently, I have been fighting this kind of victim mentality, feeling like no matter how hard I try, there is no escaping what seemingly is my fate to live the rest of my life out fat and alone. But that simply isn't true. I can change the trajectory of my life. The more that I understand exactly what kind of thinking has landed me in the situations I'm experiencing today, the more that I can see the possibility to change that thinking and to live out a different story. And I believe with all my heart. And because I believe that, and because I'm super geeky when it comes to all things self-helpy, I've been studying this topic for a long time. And all of that studying, along with all of my own experiences, wrestling with and working on changing some very stubborn beliefs of my own, I have developed a set of tools that I use every day to help me through the process of leveling up my thinking to new, helpful, happy thoughts that serve me instead of, what they're doing right now, which is making life harder. I use these tools for helping me change my thinking about all things related to my weight. But I also use them to level up my thinking about all kinds of other things, like my relationships with my kids, or how to provide for my family, and where I fit in socially, and the list goes on and on and on. Any thoughts that we have that need leveling up. I think that you are really going to love these tools, especially my daily journal and my Eating with the 4Cs placemat. Oh, I also have goal trackers and like a motivational type of necklace that I use. I've got a whole bunch of things that I use to keep me moving in the right direction, in the direction that I actually want to go. And just a little pause here. I am headed in the right direction right now. I have a multitude of ways that my life is improving just in the past few months, and that includes weight loss. So far, I'm down 25 pounds since the beginning of July. It's now the beginning of December, which means that I'm not losing weight very quickly. Well, I was, and then I hit bumps, but I'm getting through those bumps. And I'm starting to make some real progress again. So anyway, these tools are part of what is keeping me pushing forward and making it through those bumps so that I don't give up and backslide altogether like I have in the past. And I promise to share those tools with you very soon, but that would be going off topic again. So I'll save it for a future video. But this is a good time to remind you to like this video and subscribe so that you're in the know when I post the video about experiences, stories, tools, and resources that I have been talking about today. In this video, I really want to just drive home the fact that we have the power to accomplish anything that we want to accomplish in life, and that includes weight loss. We have the ability to be free from battling the scale day in and day out. I know that to be true, and I'm working on unlocking those secrets of how to make that happen. And one of the biggest secrets that I'm working on unlocking is what's going on deep, deep inside my mind. Because besides the quick aha moment types of thought changes and the ones that take some work, there is another category of thought changes that I would like to address. And these kinds of thoughts go way, way deeper than the others. They're the ones that are at the very core of who we are and how we see life. Most of these thoughts were formed like when we were really young, like maybe in infancy. For many of us, especially with destructive, self-sabotaging thoughts, these thoughts came about as a result of experiencing extremely stressful, threatening situations or trauma. These kinds of thoughts are not going to go away on their own most of the time. No matter how hard we work at them, they persist despite our best efforts. And this is when, in these kinds of situations, this is when we can turn to a professional for help. For me, coming from a background of childhood traumas and having been married to a man who was abusive, I have worked with and am still working with a therapist. And it's been very, very, very helpful. There are specifically 4 types of methods or types of therapy that have been most beneficial to me. One of them is called EMDR. It stands for eye movement desensitization. I cannot say that word. And reprocessing. Another is called accelerated resolution therapy or ART. There's another one, hypnotherapy, tapping, EFT tapping. These are things that I have been using and they have been game changers for me. I am only really just kind of mentioning these right now so that you know that there's lots of help for those of us who are struggling with trauma. We don't have to do this alone. I also want you to know that I will be diving into these different types of therapies pretty deeply and sharing my experiences with them with the hope that more of us will be interested in them and seek them out. They're amazing resources that can help with the kinds of thoughts that are deeply stuck. Those videos are also forthcoming. If you have made it this far into the video, you can probably see how passionate I am about understanding the human mind and what motivates us and how I can harness the power of my amazing brain to finally start bringing about positive results in my life, including permanent weight loss. I'm tired of fighting with myself, trying to make progress and seeing some results only to get pulled back down and sucked into old patterns of thinking and destructive habits time and time again. I know that this adventure of losing weight is going to have lots and lots of ups and downs, and I'm going to experience a lot of learning along the way. But I decided that it was important to share the whole process with you anyway. I used to be embarrassed that I'm still struggling with the same old stuff. And I put off sharing because I wanted to share all the knowledge I'd gained only after I had amazing success and I achieved my goals. But then I realized that that really won't help. It won't be helpful at all. I think that what we need more than anything is to know that we aren't alone and that there are others out there that are hitting their heads against the same brick wall and are looking for answers. So here I am, sharing the struggle with you, sharing my victories and my failures, my hopes and my frustrations. And I hope that in my sharing with you, you will also find strength, ideas for your own life, and inspiration to keep on keeping on. So bye for now. I hope to see you soon.